Hi, I'm Laura, a 35-year-old single mom navigating this hectic life with my incredible 12-year-old daughter, Emily. We've got a charming little place in the suburbs. It might not be much, but it's our home. I'm working tirelessly as a nurse, juggling long shifts to ensure we have food on the table and a roof over our heads. Emily is truly something special, sharp as a tack and brimming with creativity. Her curly hair is like a fairy tale mane, and she loves using it to showcase her unique style. Then there's Gertrude, my ex-mother-in-law, a real thorn in my side. At 68, she's a cranky widow living uncomfortably close. While I do value her help with Emily after school, her presence can be a bit overwhelming. Laura, dear, don't you think Emily's hair is a bit unruly? Gertrude's voice cuts through my morning rush. I take a deep breath and respond, it's just hair, Gertrude. Emily likes it that way. In my day, young ladies knew how to present themselves properly. Gertrude huffs. I bite my tongue, reminding myself that I should be grateful for any childcare help. Thank goodness for Sarah, my best friend and fellow nurse. She's my anchor, always ready to listen or step in with Emily when Gertrude gets particularly unbearable. One day, over coffee, Sarah says, "Girl, I don't know how you put up with that old bat. You've got the patience of a saint." I chuckle and reply, "Believe me, it's wearing pretty thin." Then there's Michael, my neighbor. He's a real gem, always offering to help with odd jobs around the house. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't noticed the way he looks at me. But after the whole mess with Emily's dad, I'm not quite ready to dive back into the dating scene. "Hey Laura, need a hand with that?" Michael calls out as I'm struggling with some boxes in the driveway. "Thanks, Michael. You're a lifesaver," I reply, trying not to focus on how his shirt fits snugly over his arms as he lifts the heavy box. But hey, not everything is bad. There are great neighbors and charming handymen. The real drama is the ongoing clash between Gertrude and me over how to raise Emily. One night at dinner, Gertrude scolds, "Emily, sit up straight. A lady doesn't slouch." I notice Emily's shoulders slump even further. "Mom, do I have to listen to her?" Emily asks. "Just do your best, sweetie," I reply, casting a warning glance at Gertrude. We all have different views on what's important. Different views indeed, Gertrude grumbles. "If you just listened to me, Laura, that child wouldn't be so unruly." I tighten my grip under the table. Emily isn't unruly, she's just expressing herself. I won't squash that. Mark my words, Laura, without proper discipline, that girl will end up in trouble. Watching Emily retreat to her room, her wild curls bouncing with each step, I can't help but worry about how long I can maintain this fragile balance. I have a sinking feeling that when it breaks, it won't be pretty. After an exhausting extra shift at the hospital, all I wanted was to hold my little girl and collapse into bed. But as soon as I walked through the door, a sense of dread washed over me. "Emily, sweetie, I'm home," I called out. The silence that greeted me was unsettling. I found her curled up in bed, sobbing. When she looked up, my heart nearly stopped. My beautiful girl's curls were gone, her head shaved clean. "Mom," Emily cried, throwing herself into my arms. "Grandma, while I was sleeping." I held her tightly, trying to comfort her as my mind raced. "Shush, sweetheart, it's going to be okay. We'll fix this." But inside, I was furious. How could that woman do this to my child? I stormed into the living room where Gertrude sat with an unsettling calm. "What on earth did you do?" I demanded. Gertrude remained unfazed. "I did what was necessary. That child was becoming far too vain and disobedient." "Vain? Disobedient? She's just a 12-year-old girl." "Exactly, and it's about time she learned some discipline. In my day, this isn't your call to make." I cut her off. "What you did is assault. I'm calling the police." Gertrude scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Laura. I've tolerated your lenient approach long enough. Someone had to step in before Emily ended up a delinquent like her father. That's when I lost my temper. Get out of my house now." "Gladly," Gertrude sneered. "But remember, you'll regret ignoring my advice. That girl needs discipline. The only thing she needs is for you to stay far away from her." As Gertrude gathered her things, the reality of the situation hit me hard. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Michael, looking worried and concerned. "Laura, is everything all right?" I heard shouting. Michael took one look at my tear-streaked face and knew something was terribly wrong. "What happened?" he asked, his concern growing as I struggled to find my voice. Instead, I just gestured towards Emily's room. Michael's eyes widened with shock as he saw her. "Oh my God, who did this?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Gertrude," I managed to choke out. Michael's expression hardened. "That's it. I'm calling the police." "No," Emily cried. "I don't want anyone to see me like this." I held her tightly. "It's okay, sweetie. We won't do anything you're not comfortable with." Michael knelt beside us, his concern evident. "Is there anything I can do?" Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Sarah. "Laura, what's going on? I saw your missed call, and you sounded really upset in your voicemail." Between sobs, I tried to explain. "That awful woman." Sarah's voice was firm. "I'm coming over right now." Within minutes, Sarah burst through the door, arms loaded with bags. "All right, I've got hats, scarves, and some cute pixie cut photos for inspiration. We'll make this right." Emily managed a faint smile as Sarah began working her magic, trying to salvage what was left of her hair. I filled Michael in on the entire ordeal with Gertrude. "I can't believe I let her anywhere near Emily," I said, a wave of self-loathing washing over me. Michael squeezed my hand reassuringly. "This isn't your fault, Laura. You were just trying to do your best for your daughter." Sarah nodded in agreement. "Michael's right. The only person to blame here is that old bat." "Gertrude." I nodded, but the guilt still gnawed at me. How could I have been so blind? As the night dragged on, Emily finally fell into an exhausted sleep. Sarah and Michael insisted on staying, setting up camp in the living room. Alone in bed, staring at the ceiling, I made a vow. Gertrude would face consequences for what she had done. I was determined to see justice served. My daughter deserved nothing less. The next few days were a blur of tears, anger, and sleepless nights. Emily wouldn't leave her room, let alone go to school. I called in sick, knowing she needed me more than ever. "Sweetie, you can't hide forever," I said softly, sitting on the edge of her bed. "I look like a freak, Mom," Emily sobbed. "Everyone's going to laugh at me." My heart broke all over again. "No, baby, you're beautiful just the way you are. We'll get through this together." Our first stop was the police station, but it turned out to be a major disappointment. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but since there was no physical harm, this is considered a civil matter," the officer said, clearly uninterested. "No physical harm," I exploded. "Look at what's happened to my daughter." But it seemed rules were rules, so the next step was consulting a lawyer. "We can certainly pursue charges for emotional abuse and file for damages," the lawyer explained. "But be warned, it won't be easy." I was determined, undeterred by the challenges. Sarah was a lifeline throughout it all, helping me document everything, photos, timelines, you name it. "We're going to hold that old witch accountable," Sarah vowed as we worked. Meanwhile, Michael was working his own magic. "I've got a friend who specializes in family law," he said. "He's a top-notch lawyer and is willing to take your case pro bono." I could have kissed Michael right then and there, but there was no time for that. Things were about to get even messier. It began with whispers at the grocery store and sidelong glances from neighbors. Soon, calls from distant relatives started pouring in. "Laura, is it true you've been neglecting Emily?" my cousin asked. That's when it hit me. Gertrude was on the offensive, spreading lies that I was an unfit mother. Furious, I vented to Sarah and Michael. "That witch is trying to turn everyone against me." But Gertrude had underestimated me. I began digging, reaching out to old babysitters, family friends, anyone who had ever interacted with Emily. The stories that emerged made my blood run cold. One night, Emily confessed through tears. "Grandma said if I told you, she'd send me away to boarding school. She used to lock me in the closet when I misbehaved." I pulled her close, a mix of rage and guilt churning inside me. How had I missed this? "It's not your fault, sweetheart," I said softly, my voice trembling. I reassured her. "I promise you, Grandma will never hurt you again." With Sarah and Michael's help, we devised a plan. We set up hidden cameras around the house and taught Emily how to safely gather evidence if Gertrude tried to contact her. "Remember, kiddo," Michael said, demonstrating how to use the voice recorder on her phone. "If Grandma calls or shows up, press this button immediately." Emily nodded, her expression resolute. "I won't let you down, Mom." "You could never let me down, sweetheart," I said, hugging her tightly. "We're in this together." As we completed our preparations, a steely resolve took hold of me. Gertrude thought she could bully and manipulate her way to victory, but she had no idea what was coming. This mama bear was ready to fight, and I wasn't about to back down. "All right, team," I said, turning to Sarah and Michael. "Let's take this witch down." The trap was set. Now we just had to wait for Gertrude to make her move. And when she did, we'd be ready. The day of the trial arrived, and I felt a wave of nausea. Emily squeezed my hand as we stepped into the courtroom. "You've got this, Mom," she whispered, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Our lawyer presented the mountain of evidence we had gathered. The hidden camera footage was particularly damning, capturing Gertrude storming into our home and hurling threats at Emily. "You ungrateful little brat." Gertrude's voice cut through the courtroom. "I'll teach you to disobey me." I saw the judge's expression darken, but that was just the beginning. One by one, witnesses took the stand. Former babysitters, family friends, even Emily's old piano teacher. Each had a story to share about Gertrude's cruelty. She told me if I didn't make Emily practice for 3 hours a day, she'd have me fired, the piano teacher testified. But the most powerful moment came with Emily's own testimony. My brave girl took the stand, her voice trembling but resolute. "Grandma said if I ever told Mom what she did, she'd make sure it was taken away," Emily said. I was overwhelmed with fear and sorrow, unable to hold back my tears. How had I missed this? Gertrude's lawyer attempted to portray her as a concerned grandmother, but the damage was done. The truth had come to light. When the judge announced his decision, I felt a wave of relief so intense I almost collapsed. "The court grants a permanent restraining order against the defendant," he declared. "Additionally, significant damages are awarded for the plaintiff's therapy and emotional distress." We had won. Gertrude was out of our lives for good. As we left the courtroom, Gertrude approached us, tears in her eyes. "Laura, Emily, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. I cut her off sharply. "Save it, Gertrude. You're dead to us." As we walked away from the courtroom, I felt a heavy burden lift from my shoulders. The following months were challenging, but we navigated them together. Emily began therapy and slowly started to come out of her shell. One evening, as we gathered around the dinner table with Sarah and Michael, Emily made a heartfelt announcement. "I want to donate the money from the lawsuit," she said, "to help other kids who've been through similar things." I couldn't have been prouder. As for Michael and me, he became a permanent part of our lives. His unwavering support throughout everything meant the world to us. The real turning point came about 6 months after the trial. Emily and I were at the hair salon, and for the first time since the incident, she was excited about her hair. "What do you think about adding purple streaks, Mom?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I grinned. "I think purple streaks sound fantastic, sweetheart." As the stylist worked her magic, I caught Emily's reflection in the mirror. For the first time in months, she was genuinely smiling. "You know what, Mom?" she said. "I think we're going to be okay." I squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, baby, we're going to be just fine." Watching my daughter with her vibrant new hairstyle, a symbol of her strength and resilience, I knew we had emerged stronger than ever. Gertrude had tried to break us, but all she did was make us unbreakable. As we left the salon, heads held high, a realization struck me. Sometimes, the best way to reclaim your life isn't about seeking revenge, but about thriving on your own terms. And that's precisely what we plan to do. If you were in Laura's position, would you ever consider forgiving Gertrude for her actions, or do you believe that some betrayal